Okay, so my name's Kat. I never applied to medicine at A-levels, just because I unfortunately didn't have a very supportive school. No one from my school ever got into medicine. It just wasn't that kind of school, unfortunately. And I had a teacher tell me that I wasn't going to be a doctor. One day when I did tell her I wanted to be a doctor, she was like, "No, you're not going to be a doctor." And I was like, "Okay." So I got really demotivated, but I was like, you know what? I still love biology. I'm going to pursue a career in research. So did my A-levels, didn't go great, and I had to do a foundation year in order to get into university. So the foundation year was sort of leading you on to a university degree. So I did mine at Liverpool, and then I did a BSc in biomed after the foundation year. After I did the BSc, I was like, oh, what do I want to do now? So I went to go talk to my course leader, and he was going through my grades and stuff. I went, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm torn. Like, I've always wanted to maybe be a doctor. Like, it's always something I've had this idea since I was a kid. Do you think I could do it? And he was like, yeah, why not? Like, you've got the grades, you've got the personality, the drive, like, just try. I was like, oh, it's too late. It was literally like a week before applications were due. So kind of got rid of that idea. And I then was like, you know what, let's do an MRes, because I really love research, and this certain research group that I'd been with previously during my bachelor's really wanted me to come in and do some more research. So did my MRes. And then during the summer before my MRes, I just decided, you know what, let's just bite the bullet. I'm going to apply to medicine. So did the GAMSAT in September, did the UCAT literally 3 days after the GAMSAT, sent off the application, and yeah, here I am today doing graduate into medicine.
Thank you for that. So, I guess starting from beginning of your application, then, what volunteering work or work experience did you undertake to, I guess, aid in your application?
Yeah. So for me, I obviously before the whole A-level situation, like obviously I wanted to be a doctor. So when I was 16, I did some volunteering in a care home. I was one of the primary people that would do the activities for the residents. Then I'd also help out in regards to like feeding residents, getting them up out of bed, and just socialising with them, because a lot of them don't have family and whatnot. So that was one experience that I did. I also used my bachelor's and my master's as part of my work experience, because I did work within MDTs, and you do get a lot of skills in doing a bachelor's and a master's that can be translated to medicine. I also managed to shadow a cardiothoracic surgeon and his team, which was an amazing opportunity. Like, I know a lot of people can't get these opportunities. I'd literally emailed 20 people in the Liverpool region that I thought might help me, and he was the only person that replied. So did that for 2 weeks. I also used my sports experiences. Like, I've done rowing since I was 11, which is like half my life, which can be translated to medicine, all the skills from that. And yeah, other than that, charity work, sort of adventures that I've been on, like climbing mountains and doing Duke of Edinburgh. So yeah, I literally use anything that I could think of that I could translate to the skills that they want of a medical student and a doctor to sort of fill in, because I didn't have a lot of clinical and a lot of time to really get the work experience. So.
No, yeah, for sure, and I'm sure they understand it's not anybody can go out and get the 70 hours worth of work experience, but it's what you are like as a person, really.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's personal. Everybody has different aspects of their life and what they've done. So for you, it sounds like it was more sports in your activities around like your personal life, when other people go out and get hundreds of hours just working as a HCA. So I guess it's very dynamic in that way.
But I also made sure like I applied strategically to my medical schools, like medical schools that didn't just want clinical, they wanted to see you as a person on that application. So I made sure it was a medical school that I liked, and they also wanted that kind of person at their medical school, rather than just all this clinical stuff which, you know, it isn't very easy to get. So
Yeah, and I guess talking about strategically applying, you sat both of the GAMSAT and the UCAT that year.
yeah.
So I guess how did you find the GAMSAT compared to the UCAT? Because there's not that many people that apply for both and sit both in the same year. So I guess what was your comparison between the two?
They're quite different. Like, the GAMSAT is a marathon, the UCAT is a sprint, is how I describe it. The GAMSAT I preferred because I felt like it was actually testing me on skills that I thought I would need as a doctor, you know, being able to extract information from a piece of paper that I've been given. For example, that's section 1. Section 2 is being able to articulate my arguments, which I might need when it comes to clinical discussions in an MDT, which is so section 1, section 2. Section 3 is that scientific knowledge and being able to apply knowledge that you have, because not everything's very clear cut, and that's section 3. So I definitely did prefer the GAMSAT over the UCAT. UCAT, I ran out of time. Like, I went in with this plan. I was like, the math section's definitely going to get me. I'm going to make sure if it's a little bit too difficult, I'm going to skip it. Got into one question and I was just there like, what is the answer? And I looked at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got like no time. So yeah, I think GAMSAT is a lot of like repetition, being able to before you go into the exam, being able to expose yourself to all the different types of patterns and equations that you could be given in such a short time period. Whereas GAMSAT is just about application, really. You go in with the method and you just apply the method to the paper.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. Is the UCAT's definitely a sprint. There's almost, you have to not do the working out sometimes and have almost an educated guess, and it is working out the tips and tricks to work out those educated guesses. And again, if it's such a short amount of time to sit such a lengthy exam, and that's where most people fall down. So I guess, did you find any particular resources helpful throughout your revision for both like the GAMSAT and the UCAT then?
So for the GAMSAT, I really bought the CGP books, and then, you know, I saw all these books called like the gold. What are they called? The gold.
Is it the gold standard? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw those. I saw the price, and I was like, I am
Yes.
not paying that, because I was working in a morgue at the time, and I was like, literally had next to no money. Like, it was minimum wage, and I was like, I literally can't afford this. So I was like Googling, I was like, you know, cheap resources for GAMSAT revision. And I've gotten to like page 3 of Google. I'm sure everyone's has heard of the Griffiths review.
Yeah.
GAMSAT Griffiths review, Dr. Griffiths. So his page is really dodgy. And I was like, oh, £50. I was like, if he robs me of all my money, is this going to be worth it? I was like, I'll stuff it. I'm going to buy it. Bought it. And it was just, he just laid out the GAMSAT in such simple terms. I was like, oh my gosh, he's literally made so much sense and made it seem like it's the easiest exam ever. Like, so got his methods from that, did the CGP books, did some practice essays that my mate at the time marked for me, even though he doesn't do medicine, he does physics. So I got him to mark them. And that's what I did really for like GAMSAT prep. Just lots of repetition of like the methods that this guy recommended, and then lots of essay writing. I'm reading newspapers and whatnot to sort of expose myself to like cartoons on kind of what's going on in the world, sort of educate myself a little bit about all sorts of things. And then UCAT was just a lot of repetition. Like, you know, you can get those books that have got, you know, they'll tell you at the beginning what the section is, like, oh, the pattern, this is kind of like what this section is asking you to do, so here's some practice questions. Okay, so do the practice ones, figure out the patterns. Okay, now here's some proper questions. And it was just a lot of going through these books, and I kept doing them, kept marking myself and like rubbing it out and then redoing it, just sort of seeing like how I'd improve over time. I think I also found some online UCAT pattern practices and whatnot. So I used those, and that was it really.
Yeah, and I guess it's this because medicine is such a high demand course now. There's a lot of false information out there. As you say, no, I've spoken to people that have used the gold standard, and they've said it's one of the best books they've read for the GAMSAT. Unfortunately, for most students applying, the the GAMSAT's expensive enough. Never mind spending hundreds and hundreds on these books.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess it's just trying to balance the free resources. Are they good enough? Especially with the UCAT, being the cheapest exam. Are you able to also find resources to complement that? And examples of like Medify, people say Medify is amazing, but it's trying to justify the price of Medify. And again, there's so many resources out there. It's trying to find the best one. So I can totally agree with your frustration trying to find the cream of the crop resources. In terms of your application, what do you think you could have done particularly? Oh, sorry. What did you think you did particularly well? And is there anything you thought you could have improved upon throughout
that? I think what I did well was use the armory that I had. Like, when it came to the work experience stuff, I was like, I'm just going to use anything and everything. Like, that shows that I'm the applicant that they want.
Yeah.
But then by the same token, like, I wish I had done a bit more clinical, because like, I saw people coming in with, after 3 rounds of applying with so much work experience, and then there was me, it's my first time applying, and I got in with such, not little, but like in comparison, like little clinical work experience. And I was like, oh, like, it's that sort of a little bit like imposter syndrome. Like, should I be here? I feel like I didn't showcase enough in terms of work experience. Like, that's my one regret in the application, I think, is not having a lot of clinical. But like, I know I did try and get as much as I could. It's just not everyone's open to helping people who are applying to medicine, unfortunately.
Yeah, and especially from doing these talks and even speaking to people offline, I think one thing they've realised is that there's no one style of candidate that university is looking for. Obviously, there's attributes. Say like London colleges are definitely looking for a high UCAT.
Yeah.
You've got Warwick, which are definitely looking for that clinical experience.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I can never pick down just certain qualities, just somebody, if that be, they're sporty or have they done, as I said, a lot of clinical work experience or a particular degree. It's very personalised in the person that they select. So I guess you can't compare yourself to the next person when they're selecting off your qualities compared to somebody else's. If that makes sense.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I do get what you mean. It is, sometimes I do feel so, I don't know, it just hits me sometimes. I just feel so bad. Like, I feel like I didn't do enough, but I'm here anyway, because like, I know I do come across quite well in interviews, and like, I know in myself, like, I am the right person to be a doctor. And that's kind of like what kept me going. I was like, no, like, this is the job. I'm going to be good. Like, just show them that you're going to be good in the interview. So, yeah, I think that was the other thing I did well, is just sort of prove to them, because obviously they give you the interview for a reason. It's just like you're just there to confirm that you are the person that they want. Just really going in with that mindset of like, yeah, they want me, so I'm gonna just tell them who I am and just smash it, really.
And I guess touching on interviews, within the interview stage of your application, how did you? Was it just MMI to start off? Yeah.
So I had 3 interviews and they were all MMI.
Sure. So I guess how did you find the MMI panel style of interview?
I actually loved it. I think being able to move from section to section allows you to reset. So if you have a bad one, you just forget about it, because you just need to get like 3/4 of them like good in order to be in with a chance of getting an offer. And they're testing such a wide range of things, like your work experience. Some of them are actually testing your like your manual dexterity skills, your reasoning skills, just seeing how you are with ethics, and also when it comes to the role play stations, just seeing how you approach being given these very last minute scenarios and how you sort of deal with it and approach people. Like, I honestly think MMIs are great. I loved it. They were fun. The one that I didn't get an offer from wasn't fun because I didn't prepare enough. It was a bit of a rubbish setup, to be honest. I know why I didn't get the offer. Like, I knew there and then I wasn't going to get the offer. Whereas the ones that I properly prepared for, and I went in with a really confident mindset. I was well slept, I was well fed, well hydrated. Like, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get an offer potentially. So I really enjoyed it.
Sure. And you touched on how you prepared. So how did you particularly prepare for each of those MMIs?
So I made a Word document full of the ethics stuff. So I watched all the Ali Abdaal series that he did on ethics, because I had no idea about that. I didn't even know that was a thing until I watched it on Ali Abdaal's YouTube, and I was like, what? Like, what is this? So that was an absolute lifesaver, because I would have gone in so unprepared otherwise. I had someone that I worked with. So I was a residential advisor in halls when I was doing my master's.
Okay.
And one of the other residential advisors was a medical student, and he gave me his little interview book. What's it called? Is it the ISC? There's this little one that a lot of people buy, and it has like all those questions in.
I think the ISC does the UCAT, the GAMSAT, and then some interview prep for that.
So he gave me that little book, and I just sort of read like what MMIs were like, and it also tells you a little bit about each medical school too. And I just sort of read a few. I don't want to scare myself, because some of the answers I was like, oh my gosh, imagine giving an answer like that on the day. Like, no way am I giving an answer like that. So I used that little book, and then I also, because I've obviously been working in the morgue, decided to go on an interview prep course with the Medic Portal.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I just want to see like how I come across, and maybe just get an idea of like the kind of scenarios that might come up. And that was really helpful, because I got feedback, which was quite good. They also give you like a little bit of directions for certain scenarios, like how to break bad news role play, for example. And yeah, I didn't, because obviously I lived alone in halls. Like, I couldn't practice with anyone. It was just lots of researching Ali Abdaal's recommendations, and knowing my personal statement as well. And that's what you can really do, because like, what you've done in terms of work experience, the ethics if you've revised it. And other than that, you just got to think on your toes, because you can't prepare for every single question. You've just got to be able to, you listen to the question, you have a moment to think, and then you talk them through your answer and like your reasoning. And that's all you can do, really. Like, then that's what I did. Just like think on my toes and just be myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, in that there's so many free resources out there. As you mentioned, Ali's, you've got Kenji's, you've got Ollie's, all of these medical students that have almost collated all of their experience going through the application process and more with their research outside of that, and just put it all up there for free. So you don't really need to go any further than that, because it's all on the internet for free. Obviously, having somebody actively there and providing you feedback on what you're doing well, what you could have done better.
Yeah,
totally agree with that. But as I said, massive props to these medical students for putting that together.
Yeah, it's so nice of them, isn't it? Because I also, like, before booking the Medic Portal interview, I did try and ask my university if they did anything like that, and no one did, so I was like, great, this is a bunch of help. Literally didn't know who to turn to, and then I found the course and I was like, you know what, it's like £150, which is a lot. Like, I had to say, like, the reason I did the morgue job over the summer is to save the money for this application. I was like, stuff it, let's just do it. Like, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I know like not everyone's got the money to do that, and I absolutely found like it isn't you don't need to do an interview course. It was just so I could get an idea of how I would come across as someone. It's just what I wanted to know, because I'd never done a medical application. Literally, it was just me and my dad doing this application together. Like, what do they want? Like, what do I do now? So yeah, like as you said, there's so many free resources out there, and there's loads of people on the medic Instagram that you can contact to help you. Like, so many people have messaged me like, what do I do with this interview? And I'm like, calm down for one, and this is what you do. So, you know, so many people will help you if you need it.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, in that having spoken to the medic portal on this channel, they are one of the best resources, mainly because they have that cohort behind them, graduate medics, doctors, and it's just trying to sift through which is the best course out there. And I'm not going to mention any courses, but there is some courses out there that are very slim run by just graduates, etc. So again, I think you did the right thing to do a bit of research and find out what are the best courses out there. When you mentioned role play, did you do anything in specific to practice for them? Obviously, it's very unique within the MMI space.
I watched a few of the YouTube ones where like people like giving a scenario of role play, and I majority watched the Breaking Bad News ones because I just had a feeling like that is the one that was going to come up, and I just wasn't going to be great at it. I don't know. I just thought that's not something really like how do you break bad news? So I just watched a lot of those. And yeah, that's all I did really. The how many did I have in total? I think I had 4 in total over the course of 3 interviews. One of them had 2 role play stations. Were fine. Like, I had to think on my feet. Like, there weren't really scenarios that I could have prepared for really. I just had to think on my feet and just act out as I would as a person. So
yeah, and I guess this is a thing in you can almost prepare on how to break bad news. And would you say knowing the theory on how to break bad news is ideal?
yeah,
but then it's almost you having to apply that to, you can ask someone to break bad news in hundreds of different ways, but it's knowing that almost process on how to break that bad news, which will score you those marks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think there is actually an acronym for it. Don't ask what it is right now. But there was an acronym for it on the internet somewhere that makes it really easy, like warning shot and then kind of going from there. So definitely look that up if you're preparing for interviews. The Breaking Bad News acronym, so definitely is helpful.
Thank you. I guess just to close out on the interviews is everybody that was spoken to who successfully got into medical school just feels like they've enjoyed the interview process and feel they've come out excited that they've had the interview, and almost they've shown their willingness to be there. And I think that does count towards something at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I went in just like really bubbly and just excited just to show like the fact that I even got the opportunity to have an interview. I was so excited that I even got one, never mind 3. So I just went in like just really bubbly and just I was ready to show them that, you know, I wanted to be there.
Yeah, for sure. So looking back now, is there anything particularly you wish you would have known before you began your degree as a med student?
Ooh. That, oh, you know, it is hard work. Like there is a lot to do, but you don't need to be doing work the whole time. You can go and enjoy yourself. And it's something that I heard before medical school, but you don't. So you have a lake. They don't want you to know the whole lake and the whole depth of the lake. They want you to know just the whole top of the lake, not everything. So yeah, I think I wish like I was kinder to myself at the start rather than like, you know, I think I had like maybe 2 breakdowns now, but like, this is so much content. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you know, just have fun with it, and you don't need to be working all the time. Like that isn't what it is. I think since coming back after Easter, I've maybe done like 2 hours of work a day. So yeah, just be kind to yourself. That's what I'd say.
And from as somebody coming from a BSc biomedical science, how have you found the adaptation to obviously studying in medical school? Obviously, with biomedical science, you'll learn to study in depth, as you said with the lake analogy. So, have you almost adapted your study style for medical school?
I think with this degree, like, you know, in my bachelor's, I felt like I had so much pressure on me to know front to back. Like, a lot of times I'd start a new module, he'd be like, don't even try and strategically revise this exam. You will be examined front to back the whole syllabus for this module. Like, don't even try it. And it's like, okay. Whereas in this, they're like, yeah, it's so fun if you just know, like, you know, just try and know a lot, but not in depth. Just, I just feel like with medicine, it's a lot of, for me, it's not. I don't want to use the word common sense, but like a lot of the times I'm doing clinical scenarios, I'm like, oh well, you know, it's that. Like for a lot of like diagnosing, for example, yeah, I don't know why, but I find it easier. Like it's more fun because I'm actually applying it to scenarios and patients. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have this in the future. Like I can't wait to like come across someone with like, I don't know, asthma, and I know what it is and like know what to give them, kind of thing. I find medicine in comparison to the BSc is a lot more fun. I just felt like, you know, I'm sure you're going through it at the moment. Like the BSc can be a little bit like sort of grind you down sometimes, like having to know so much. But
Yeah, and being somebody that's not experienced what you guys are currently experiencing, I feel with the biomedical science course, you're always wanting to hit those 70 and above. So your average needs to be a first.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what you're going to be mapped against when you apply. So do you feel, obviously with the change for a medical degree is very unique in that as long as you're above that 40%, you're going to be a doctor no matter what. So do you feel that's relieved the pressure for you a bit in your cohort?
Definitely. I mean, obviously sometimes at the moment you're kind of graded amongst your cohort, which is a little bit of pressure sometimes. But when I think about the end goal, I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to pass, really. Like I can all I need to do is the best I can do at the end of the day. And as long as I pass, I'm going to become a doctor in 4 years' time. That's the most important thing right now. And then sometimes you've got to factor in mental health, and it's like, I don't need to be breaking my back to know this module front to back right now, because it's going to come up time and again, this information. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because it's like that spaced repetition thing. Like it's going to keep coming up. I'm going to have more opportunities to know it. Like a surgeon doesn't know a procedure the very first time they've read it. It takes time and repetition and work for it to set in. And that's
For sure. And I guess to get into the nitty gritty part of med school now, is there any particular myths or misconceptions that you thought were almost like stigmatized in med school before you got there?
I think like that med students work all the time. Like that isn't true. Like, you know, if you did work all the time, you would run out of steam. Like I unfortunately experienced that during my bachelor's. Like I was in the library for 12 hours a day, and it wasn't good. Like it really did affect my mental health, and I learnt a lesson from that, thankfully. Like that isn't the way to revise. That isn't what university is about, and it's not healthy. And yeah, med students really don't advise all the time. We have fun. Like, obviously, we're in a lockdown, but me and my housemate sometimes will just accidentally stumble on each other in the kitchen, and then 3 hours later we're still chatting, and it's like, we should be doing work, but oh well. You know what I mean? So yeah, we really don't work all the time, guys, so we're nice and chill.
And I guess we touched on it slightly before, but just what keeps you motivated in such an intense course like medicine? I guess that's a very personal question, but
I think just knowing that, you know, I am going to be a doctor, I'm going to have the opportunity to help so many people one day, and it's going to be so worth it in the end. Like, no matter what specialty I go into, it's going to be so worth it, and I'm going to make my family so proud.
Yeah, and again, it's even with myself having a chance, even if it's just an hour at a time, speaking to somebody that's made it. I like to use the phrase "made it," but you get to realize that most of them were in your shoes 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and it's almost humanizing this young medical student, and it almost relights the candle every time you speak to somebody like yourself, and it gives you that motivation and a kick to say, you've got to start your application, you've got to do more work in your application.
Or just keep going, really. Like,
yeah,
because sometimes it can get a bit much, doesn't it? Like, when you think about, you know, I'm so close but so far at the same time. Like, yeah, hopefully we're all motivating you to like keep going.
Yeah, and I guess it's, when you look at it, it's every medical student, even probably yourself, when you look at it and you're like, there's 2 years of climbing up this mountain, and you can't see over that mountain until you make it, and sometimes it does become a bit overwhelming because you don't know what's on the other side. And I think speaking to people like you almost give that glimpse of when you're there, like, you're there, you don't have to think about the application anymore. That's totally behind you.
Yeah. But also just take each day at a time. Like, sometimes just don't even think about it. It's like, you know what, I've just got to get over this, you know, this exam coming up, and then I can think a little bit more about that, because it can get overwhelming, and you know, you just got to take each little thing at a time. The application will happen when it happens. Like, I don't even know when it opens. Is it open already? Probably.
It's very weird with COVID. So I'm sure the UCAT opens, I think it's August when you can apply, sometime around there, and then you can sit within that time period. Is it?
There's so much time. There's so much time. Don't stress.
Yeah. Well, I guess, what does a week look like at medical school then? As a med student, obviously, I guess pre-COVID it would have been totally different. But what does a week in the life look like currently?
So at my medical school.
Yeah.
Okay. So our weeks technically start on a Tuesday. So we have PBL at this university. So I go to Nottingham.
Yeah.
So we have PBL, and it's split into 3 sessions a case. So Tuesday we start the case. That's session 1, and then, you know, we review it. We think about some learning objectives that we think could help us with the diagnosis, with the help of the one of the doctors who sit in with us. Then session 2, we get given some of the test results that we might have thought about. We would do a history with this patient, and then we'd sort of discuss some of the learning objectives. So someone would be like, oh, okay, so I researched today the action potential of a heart, like a myocyte, so let's discuss that kind of thing. And then the following Tuesday, we would then have the session 3 of the case. And then literally 15 minutes after finishing that case, we'd start the next one. So that's kind of how it works. So on that first Tuesday, after PBL, they release all the lectures for the week. And it's literally up to you how you want to do them. Some people literally do all of them in that day, no matter how many there are. They will sit down and smash them all out. We have 10 sometimes. I could not do that. So I tend to look at the learning objectives that we're doing in PBL, and I'm like, okay, so we're doing these on Friday, so I'm going to do the lectures that kind of correspond with those learning objectives. So I'm sort of in the know for in prep for Friday, and then I'll do the rest at the weekend, kind of thing. And sometimes on Monday we might have an anatomy session, or they might during the week do a synchronous session on Microsoft Teams. Maybe a lecturer wants to do a synchronous one where we all sit down and listen, kind of thing. And then either on a Tuesday or a Friday, you'll have clinical skills. So split the year in half. So about half a cohort go on a Tuesday, the other half go on a Friday, clinical skills. And that's from about 1:30 till 5, depending on what we're covering. And that's like double sessions. So one will be a communication, one will be like a hands-on exam. And that's the week, really. Like, it can be jam-packed on a Tuesday and a Friday, but it's completely up to us how we want to revise, or like go through the lectures, kind of thing. So yeah, that's my week.
Yeah, and I think most universities have gone that way in providing lectures online. It's been so convenient, as we said earlier, when you're not limited to go to a lecture room and sit down for an hour. You can almost take it at your own pace, and just being able to start and stop the recording if you don't.
So handy.
And
I
that's
don't know
one
how we're
thing I'm gonna
back.
miss. Yeah.
How are we going to do it? Like, I used to go to a lecture, sit through an hour of them chatting, and I'm like, what? And then go to the library, re-watch it, and I'm like, what? Like, it just takes so much time, like, going to a lecture in person. But I think it would be nice to get out the house to go to a lecture in person. Like, I'm complaining at the moment, but I think it will be an opportunity to actually get out, because being cooped up inside, I'm not really enjoying it right now. So, nice change of scenery.
Yeah. Again, I'm not looking forward to going back to missing all this information. When you're able to type down everything that the lecture's saying, and then having to miss all of this opportunity.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I'll probably regret it next year. I'll be like, damn it, should have done lectures online. But hey ho.
I guess what's your future? What's your vision going into the future then? Like, where, obviously.
Like, what I'd like to do, or
yeah. So where do you see yourself progressing after med school? Obviously, you probably might not have an idea, but
so I do have an idea. I don't know if the plan will work, but this is the idea at the moment. So in my bachelor's, I specialised my biomed degree to oncology and cardiology. They're always two things that have really interested me. I don't know why. I love the heart. I love learning about cancer. I find it so interesting. So for foundation, I really want to go to the Northwest because my heart belongs in like Liverpool. So I really want to go back up north and like train there. And because obviously the Northwest have got like cardiothoracics and, very big cancer hospitals, I either want to go into like cardiothoracic surgery or maybe oncology, or if I do cardiothoracics, if I do the thoracic side of it, go into like the research cancer side of thoracics alongside surgery. That's the idea at the moment. I don't know if that will happen. But then, I also want to do aid work. I'm not sure if you've read the book called War Doctor.
No,
it's by David Knott. So he's a vascular surgeon, and so his book is all about how he was a vascular surgeon, and then he got into the whole aid thing, and I think he went to Syria or Aleppo, and he was literally doing surgery in a war zone and like teaching surgeons over there like basically what to do in these emergency situations. And now he's dedicated the rest of his career to training surgeons in these war zones on what to do in emergency situations. And I think that's something that I'd really like to do. Like, that's way in the future because you have to be very specialised in terms of like your surgery. But I'd really like to go and do that for a bit, I think, too. Maybe not with, I don't think it'd be MSF kind of stuff. It'd probably be like Red Cross sort of stuff. But yeah.
I guess that's a good opportunity to ask, what's your favourite, if you want to call it medicine book or med story book? And everybody has their favourite, but I guess when you read so many, they all become entangled.
Yeah. So I think it would be War Doctor, to be honest. Like, I just think it's such an inspiring story, and it's like something that I really resonate with in terms of like his drive to pursue that area of medicine. But I also love the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks book. That was the first ever medical book I read as a kid. My mum gave it to me. I think I was like 13 or something like that. I thought that was an amazing book. I'd happily read that 10 times over.
There's so many amazing books.
Yeah, there really are.
You can almost read them for years upon years upon years. And I must confess, my favourite must be it is right there. This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. That was my very first one I read, and I gotta give props because that just opened the door to so many other books that were, I guess, it almost enlightens you in what the NHS is like, and there's not just one doctor out there. As you said, everybody has their own personality, everybody has their own story, and just it provides that insight in which you couldn't really get from speaking to people. So for future medical students watching this video, then, are there any golden piece of advice you give to somebody going through the application process?
Be organised, I guess. Like, know when deadlines are. Know where all your certificates and evidence is for some of these things, because they'll ask you for like the transcript for your degree, for example. Know where that is. If they ask you for your A-level results, know what those are. I think it was Keel asked me, they're like, yeah, what were your A-level grades? And I was like, oh gosh. Let me go find those. I think being organised is really important, because you don't want to, like, I don't know, say the week before the UCAS deadline, realise that you haven't got a reference, for example, and be like, oh my gosh, where am I going to ask? So, just be very meticulous, like write things down, have a calendar, have an app like Todoist or little reminders. That would be my advice. And also, don't be scared to ask for help. This is a long journey. You don't need to do it by yourself. You can have your family members help you. You can contact the medics on Instagram. Like, there are so many people that want to help you. Just reach out when you need help during it.
And finally, for somebody starting out their first day at Nottingham, what would be your take home tips for that student?
Also be organised, because I feel like I got organised really late on. I was just there like la 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 on the first day, like just on my laptop, and I was like, I can't make notes on just my laptop. And I was like, I've got to get an iPad, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Yeah, I think just be organised and write dates down, because it's so easy to forget dates. I have a diary now. I've never had a diary. So invest in organisation methods.
Yeah, I guess most of all, just enjoy it. You've made it. Yeah.
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a long journey. Just enjoy it whilst you can.
But once you're there. You can put all the application process behind you. So, yeah.
It's a sigh of relief that you're finally.
Yeah. Again, I just like to say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your day to come speak to me.
You're more than welcome.
Is there any way our viewers can find you online or get in contact with you if they have any other questions?
Yeah. If you go on my Instagram, so Kat the Medic, I'm always near my phone, so I'll always answer within 24 hours. So contact me through there.
Sure, I'll be sure to add that in the description. All right. Thank you again, Kat, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.